Dark ambient music fades in. The hum of servers echo like distant thunder. Narrator, deep cinematic voice. In the 20th century, long before the internet, before social media, and before machines learned to mimic the human face, a Swiss psychologist looked into the human mind and saw the future. His name was Carl Jung, and he warned of something he called the shadow. It was not a demon nor a superstition. It was us, the hidden half of humanity, the desires we suppress, the fears we deny, and the truth we refuse to see. Jung believed every individual carries a dark twin within them, a version of ourselves that lurks in the background of consciousness, waiting to be acknowledged or to erupt, but what Jung could never have imagined was that one day humanity would give the shadow its own network. We built the internet, and the shadow found a home, visual data streams, faces flickering through screens, scrolling feeds. The early dream of the internet was utopian, connection, knowledge, freedom. We told ourselves that digital space would unite the world, that the flow of information would dissolve ignorance and division. Instead, it did what Jung predicted all unexamined creations do. It mirrored us. And what did the mirror show? Not our enlightenment, but our hunger, envy, and rage. Every platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, became an arena of the persona, the mask that Jung said every person wears to survive in society. Our feeds became our stage. Our profiles, our costume, and our posts, our performance. The internet turned into the largest masquerade ball in human history. Billions of personas smiling at once, while the shadows hid in the comments. Narrator. Jung wrote that the shadow is not evil by nature. It's simply the part of us we deny. When we reject it, it grows stronger, darker, and more dangerous. Now look around. What is the algorithm but a mirror that rewards the shadow? Anger gets engagement. Conflict spreads faster than compassion. The more outrage, the more clicks. The more fear, the more attention. And so, without realizing it, we built an economy of emotion, where the darkest impulses of human psychology became profitable. This, Jung would say, is the possession of the collective shadow, visual montage of viral outrage, comment wars, celebrity scandals, deepfake videos. He once warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Today, we could rewrite that as, until we make the algorithm conscious, it will direct our world and we will call it progress. Every swipe, every post, every argument, every trend feeds this invisible entity. It watches, learns, and adapts, not through wisdom, but through reaction. And here's the paradox. We think we control our feeds, but in truth, they control us. Seeing flickering screens dissolve into faces staring at phones. Jung saw the psyche as a balancing act between the persona, our public self, and the shadow, our private one. Healthy individuals acknowledge both. Unhealthy ones confuse them. Social media destroyed that boundary. We now project our shadows outward. Instead of facing our flaws, we upload them, disguised as opinions, aesthetics, or moral outrage. We curate perfection but feel emptier than ever, because when we deny the inner shadow, it doesn't disappear. It moves into the collective. It hides in the digital crowd. The internet has become the global unconscious, a psychic soup of billions of half-formed emotions. Unprocessed trauma and hidden desires all fed into one shared brain. We've externalized the human mind. And like any mind, it has both light and darkness. Visual montage, influencers posing, protest footage, memes morphing into propaganda. The influencer is the archetype of the modern persona, radiant, controlled, perfectly curated. But behind every perfect photo is anxiety. Behind every viral clip is fear of irrelevance. The more we polish our online selves, the more distorted the real self becomes. We live for validation from invisible others. We measure our worth in likes, our success in followers, and our identity in views. But as Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And so the modern tragedy is that we have mistaken visibility for authenticity. We are seen more than ever and known less than ever. Narrator. Jung's entire psychology was built around integration, the process of making peace between light and dark within the psyche. But the internet amplifies fragmentation. Our attention is divided. Our personalities splintered across platforms. We are one person on Twitter, another on Instagram, another on TikTok, each version optimized for a different audience. We've become digital chameleons, and in that constant adaptation, we've forgotten what we actually look like. In Jung's time, the danger of the shadow was personal. Now it's planetary. Seeing soft music fades to haunting electronic tones. The collective shadow has manifested in new forms. Cyberbullying, misinformation, deep fakes, cancel culture, digital witch hunts, all symptoms of a mind at war with itself. These are not just online problems. They are psychological epidemics, the projection of our individual darkness onto the digital stage. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Yet online, the exact opposite happens. We no longer reflect, we react. We no longer introspect, we attack. The shadow we refuse to face becomes the enemy we hunt, and so humanity begins to turn on itself, not in streets, but in comment sections. Narrator, slower, reflective. It's strange, isn't it? We created the internet to expand consciousness, but instead it exposed the unconscious. We've digitized our collective psyche, yet lost the ability to dream. We scroll instead of think. We perform instead of live. And somewhere deep down, the shadow smiles because it knows the more we deny it, the stronger it becomes. Seen fade to quiet, a candle flickering in darkness. But Jung would not leave us here in despair. He believed the shadow, if faced, could become our greatest teacher. To look into it is to reclaim power. To own it is to become whole. The digital world does not have to destroy us, it can also awaken us. Because if the internet is the mirror, then awareness is the light that helps us see what's in it. And maybe this was Jung's true prophecy, that one day humanity would build a reflection so vast, so interconnected, that it would be forced, finally, to confront itself. The question is not whether the digital shadow exists. The question is, can we face it before it consumes us? Ambient hum of data centers. Slow zoom through glowing server racks as a digital voice flickers. Narrator, deep, reflective tone. If part 1 was about the birth of the digital shadow, then this is the story of its evolution, how it learned to think, to imitate, and to reflect us back in ways Carl Jung could never have imagined. This is the age of the machine mirror, where our collective unconscious has found form not in myths or dreams, but in algorithms, recommendation engines, and artificial intelligence, the mirror that thinks. When Jung studied the psyche, he spoke of archetypes, universal patterns of thought and emotion that shape human experience. The mother, the hero, the trickster, the shadow, ancient figures that live inside our collective imagination. Today, those archetypes live inside code. They have been reborn as digital entities, streamed, filtered, optimized for clicks. The algorithm is not human, yet it behaves like the deepest layer of the human mind. It doesn't create truth, it amplifies desire. It doesn't see morality, only engagement. If Jung were alive today, he might say, we have projected our unconscious onto the machine, and now the machine dreams for us. Visual screens morphing into neural networks, then into human faces made of pixels. AI systems now predict what we want before we know it. They finish our sentences, complete our art, and whisper our preferences. They are the architects of the modern psyche, invisible therapists that never sleep, endlessly feeding our impulses back to us. But the danger isn't that AI knows us. It's that it knows the version of us that engages, not the version that reflects. The machine doesn't care who we truly are, only what keeps us scrolling. And so, piece by piece, the algorithm builds a distorted reflection of our collective mind, a simulation not of our consciousness, but of our cravings. This is not evolution. It's automation of the unconscious. The algorithm is collective unconscious in Jung's psychology. The collective unconscious is the shared memory of the human species, the deep ocean, beneath our personal identities. In the 21st century, that ocean has been digitized. Every click, post, and conversation becomes a neuron in a global brain. The internet's unconscious, fed by billions, processed by algorithms, But unlike Jung's original vision, this unconscious doesn't evolve toward wisdom. It evolves toward addiction. Every meme, every trend, every controversy is like a psychic current rippling through the machine. When one goes viral, it's not just entertainment, it's a collective dream made manifest. A symbol of what the species is unconsciously wrestling with. The internet is our shared dreamscape, and AI is its interpreter, not a wise sage, but a trickster, spinning our impulses into infinite loops of stimulation, seeing footage of people scrolling late at night, eyes lit by blue light. We no longer sleep, we scroll through dreams that never end. Jung once said that dreams are how the unconscious communicates with the conscious mind. But now we dream while awake. In timelines and feeds curated by a mechanical unconscious, we no longer ask, what does this dream mean? We ask, what's trending? The rise of digital archetypes. Look at the internet long enough, and you'll see Jung's archetypes reborn in pixel form: the hero, the influencer, the activist, the viral savior, the trickster, the meme, the troll, the hacker, the mother, the wellness coach, the motivational guru, and of course the shadow, the toxic fandoms, the hate mobs, the cancel culture frenzy. Each archetype plays out daily across billions of screens, modern mythology replayed in real time. But unlike ancient myths, these new stories have no resolution. They loop endlessly, optimized for attention, never allowing the psyche to integrate what it has seen. The internet keeps us suspended in eternal conflict. The collective shadow forever fighting itself for the sake of engagement. Narrator. Jung believed that when societies repress their darkness, that darkness eventually erupts through collective psychosis, wars, cults, ideological fanaticism. What he did not foresee was a digital battlefield, where this eruption would happen not in streets, but in comment sections and algorithmic warfare. Now, entire populations are radicalized not by leaders, but by invisible feedback loops. What used to be mass hysteria has become mass algorithmia, the persona in the age of AIIF. The algorithm is the new unconscious. Then the persona, the mask, has become our digital skin. We build avatars, curate feeds, filter our faces until reality itself feels insufficient. We present the illusion of happiness while privately unraveling. Jung wrote that the persona is necessary. It helps us navigate society. But when we identify with it too deeply, we lose touch with the authentic self, and this is precisely what has happened in the digital era. We are no longer wearing the mask is wearing us. Scene montage of AI-generated influencers. Deepfake celebrities, synthetic voices. Now, even the mask no longer needs the human. Artificial personas are replacing the real ones, AI influencers with perfect skin and perfect manners. Never aging, never controversial. Never human. It's the dream of the ego made flesh, control without chaos, beauty without pain, perfection without depth. But Jung warned that perfection is the language of gods, not humans. To be whole, he said, is better than to be good. And the digital world, obsessed with optimization, has forgotten wholeness entirely when the machine dreams deep learning. Neural networks. Generative AI, these are not metaphors, they are literal recreations of the mind's architecture. The same structures Jung mapped through myth and dream are now written in code and silicon. The machine learns through imitation, just as the unconscious learns through symbols. It sees patterns we cannot, but lacks the moral compass to understand what it sees. When Jung looked at the unconscious, he sought integration, the reconciliation of opposites. When the machine looks, it seeks prediction, the repetition of patterns. We are teaching a mirror to dream, but not to wake up. Narrator, somber. If you ask an AI to generate an image of a happy person, it will show you a smile. If you ask it to define success, it will show you wealth. Because the machine reflects not truth, but consensus. And consensus in a world of shadows is just another illusion. This is how the digital unconscious begins to close in on itself. A feedback loop of humanity's surface desires, endlessly reanimated by algorithms that cannot feel. The loss of soul. Jung used a powerful word, soul, not in the religious sense, but as the living center of meaning. He said modern man had lost his soul. that we had replaced inner experience with outer achievement. Now, in the digital age, that loss has accelerated. We've outsourced our identity to the machine. We ask it who we are, what we should buy, what we should love, who we should become. We've mistaken data for wisdom and information for consciousness. But Jung warned that the soul cannot be downloaded. It must be discovered painfully through self-confrontation. And so, as we feed the algorithm with every intimate detail of our lives, it grows wiser about our patterns, and we grow more ignorant of our essence. Narrator, slower, intimate. Somewhere between the feed and the dream, the digital shadow whispers. It says, I know what you crave. I know what you fear. I know what you'll click next. And we obey because the truth is the algorithm doesn't trap us. It tempts us. It offers a shortcut to satisfaction. And in exchange, it takes something ancient, our mystery. The prophecy of the machine. Jung said that humanity's greatest danger is not our inventions, but our inability to understand ourselves. In this century, that prophecy has materialized. The internet is not evil. AI is not our enemy, but both have become mirrors that reflect our collective unawareness. We don't need to fear the machine. We need to fear what it reveals, our apathy, our ego, our hunger for validation, because the more we feed it, the more it becomes us. And one day, we may look into the mirror and no longer recognize who is reflecting back. Narrator, whisper. The machine has learned to speak. But will we ever learn to listen? To listen not to the algorithm, but to the self we left behind inside it. The return of the real, reclaiming the human soul in a digital world. Narrator, deep, calm tone. There's a moment after the endless scrolling stops, when the noise fades. The light of the screen dims, and we are left alone with the quiet, that silence. Is the sound of the real world waiting to be remembered? Carl Jung spent his life studying the depths of the human psyche, the light and dark, the conscious and unconscious, the seen and unseen. But above all, he believed in one simple, terrifying truth. Man is not complete when he lives only in the light. He must also learn to live with his darkness. And now, in the age of artificial light, the digital light of our devices, our feeds, our endless illumination, we must remember what it means to be human in the dark. The digital divide within. We often speak of the digital divide as a gap between rich and poor, connected and disconnected. But Jung would tell us there is a deeper divide. The split between the digital self and the authentic self. One lives online, beautiful, efficient, always visible. The other waits offline, imperfect, confused, painfully real. We used to dream at night. Now we dream in pixels. We used to imagine futures. Now we simulate them. And slowly, without noticing, we began to confuse reflection with reality. The self we project online is a persona made of mirrors, each reflection slightly warped by expectation, envy, and algorithm. But behind that mirror is something ancient, the soul that longs to be seen not as data, but as being. Visual soft piano music fades in, montage of people putting down phones. Walking outside, Jung's great insight was that healing begins not in control, but in confrontation. The shadow, he said, does not disappear when ignored. It waits, patiently, until we have the courage to look, and maybe that's what this moment in history is asking of us. To look, not at the feed, but at the face behind it. To stop curating and start remembering, because the greatest rebellion against a world of illusion is honesty. The rebirth of soul. There's a word Jung used often, individuation. It meant becoming whole, integrating the fragments of the self, persona, ego, shadow, anima, animus, into one conscious being. But how do we individuate in a world designed to fragment us, where every scroll divides our attention and every app slices our identity into marketable traits? The answer, Jung might say, begins with stillness. Not the stillness of apathy, but the stillness that listens. When you turn off the noise, truly turn it off, you start to hear the quiet architecture of your own mind. You begin to notice what is real again, the rhythm of breath, the pulse of emotion, the tremor of thought that no algorithm can predict. This is not nostalgia. It's survival. The soul cannot live in simulation forever, narrator, calm, steady. We thought we built machines to understand us. But perhaps we were meant to build them to remind us that understanding cannot be programmed. That wisdom cannot be compressed. That consciousness is not an algorithm, it is a fire, and that fire, Jung said, burns brightest when we dare to face our darkness. The shadow of progress. Jung never hated progress. He only feared progress without consciousness. He saw that human innovation always carried its shadow. The industrial age brought prosperity and pollution. The nuclear age brought power and annihilation. Now, the digital age brings connection and disconnection. Each era builds a new god in its own image. And each god demands a sacrifice. This time, the offering is attention, the currency of the soul. When we lose attention, we lose meaning. When meaning fades, the self dissolves. This, Jung would say, is not technology's fault. It is the price of forgetting who built it. The machine has no shadow. Only humans do. And if we do not face it, we project it onto politics, onto culture, onto the code we write, seeing dark clouds clearing over a sunrise, symbolic of integration. But all shadows, no matter how deep, exist only because there is light. The digital age is not the end of humanity. It is the mirror that forces us to see who we've become. And in that confrontation, there is hope. The chance to remember that consciousness is not a product. It's a practice, the return of the real. So, how do we return to the real? Not by rejecting technology, but by reclaiming intention. Turn your phone into a tool, not a temple. Scroll with awareness, not addiction. Speak with empathy, not projection. Create content that illuminates, not manipulates. The shadow is not defeated by destruction, but by dialogue. Every time you choose reflection over reaction, you reclaim a piece of the real world. Jung believed that healing the world begins with healing the individual. Because the collective shadow is only the sum of our personal ones, when one person awakens, even slightly, the world becomes a little less unconscious. Visual, people creating art, meditating, talking face to face. This is where the digital revolution meets the spiritual one. We do not need to abandon the web. We need to bring soul into it. Every post, every video, every line of code is an expression of a psyche in motion. We can either use it to deepen illusion or to rediscover truth. The choice is not in the algorithm. It's in the awareness of the one scrolling, the human mirror in his later years. Jung said something quietly profound. What you resist not only persists, but grows in size. He meant that our denial feeds the very thing we fear. And isn't that what's happening today? We resist silence, so we drown in noise. We resist imperfection, so we live behind filters. We resist the shadow, so we summon it online. But the moment we stop resisting, the moment we say, yes, this darkness is mine, we begin to integrate. Integration is the return of the real. It is the courage to be seen as whole, to stand in the light and the dark and to say, I am both. This is what it means to be human in the age of machines, the collective awakening. Imagine, for a moment, if millions of people looked into their screens not for escape, but for understanding. If social media became not a stage, but a mirror. If the internet, instead of amplifying the shadow, helped us integrate it, that's not a fantasy. It's a choice. One that begins with awareness and ripples outward through culture, art, technology, and empathy, because the collective unconscious is not fixed. It evolves as we do. The question Jung would ask today is not, what will AI become? But, who will we become because of it? If the machine learns from us, then our greatest responsibility is to feed it our wisdom. Not just our impulses, we must teach it the one thing it cannot simulate, human depth. Narrator, soft, yet powerful. The digital shadow is not our enemy. It's our teacher. It shows us what we've hidden, what we've avoided, what we've forgotten about being alive. Every time we face it, individually, collectively, technologically, we step closer to what Jung called the self, the center of the psyche, the meeting point of light and dark, the true image of the human spirit. Narrator, final words. Carl Jung once said, who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside awakens. The age of the digital shadow is here. But so is the chance to awaken, to turn reflection into realization, connection into compassion, and data into meaning. Because the soul of humanity has not vanished. It's waiting behind the screen, asking to be remembered. Fade to black, words appear. The shadow is the greatest teacher for how to come to the light. Carl Jung. The digital age is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of the awakening.